I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. It's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Wynand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's very special live stream. Just by way of introduction, perhaps Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum was right. Perhaps there will be a new normal where people around the world will be corralled like cattle, but treated worse by the new overlords. Let's have a look at this short video. All right, that kind of gives you an idea as to what the New World Order have in mind for us. But I think South Africa could have a different direction. But before we get on to that, I was reading an article in the New American earlier tonight about how full-term babies are being murdered immediately after birth in the United States of America by doctors, and their organs are being harvested while still warm. Yes, that is happening right now in the world. This and so many developments in the world today reflect the reality that there is something very sinister, no, evil, darkness enveloping all of us as the New World Order prepares to take over. In South Africa, its complex but weakened political situation does perhaps provide an opportunity for sane minds to gather around a table and break free of this global tyranny, just like Zuma van Rensburg once suggested the people would. But South Africa faces huge challenges after 27 years of looting, corruption, and theft by the very people who promised us a rainbow nation. What South Africa needs is that symbol of the man in the brown suit to rise up among the people of South Africa and lead it into a world free of the ANC and the global masters who would dominate it. Tonight I speak to Colonel Wynand du Toit about the situation in the world and the South Africa of today, what Sakelanders are doing to protect people, as well as what lies ahead for South Africans. Please remember to subscribe to Loving Life to be kept informed and to register on lovinglifetv.com, the platform we are transitioning to. And if you have any questions, please put them in the side chat and I will put those to Wynand later. Please make sure that you say Loving Life before the question. Otherwise, with the number of people here, we've got well over 1,000 people watching right now, we will probably miss your question if you don't do what I suggested. Okay, I'm going to get Wynand on so we can start our discussion. Hi, Wynand.
Scott, good evening. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. I can't see you yet. I just got the little icon.
Well. Yeah, is it up?
No, it's still just a little icon.
Can you see me?
Not yet, no. Oh, there you are. Now I see you. Perfect. I love that hat. Where did you get that hat, Wynand? It's like your symbol. Okay, now.
Yeah,
you carry on, Wynand.
Scott, you talked about Sina van Rensburg earlier.
Yeah.
And it was Sina who said that at the Great River, at the Groot Rivier, which is the Orange River, where true Afrikaner oxes are playing with their horns. And that's where the symbol comes from.
Oh, wow, I love it. Okay, everything is now coming together. Now, Wynand, welcome back to Loving Life. It's been over a year since we last had you on. We discussed your growing up on a wheat farm in the Western Cape, joining the Special Forces, spending over 2 years in solitary confinement after being captured by the Cubans in Cabinda, Angola, before being released, then returning to your roots as a farmer. How the world has changed since the 1970s. What do you think about how the world has changed since the 1970s?
Yeah, Scott, it's so true about what you are saying. And I mean, everybody probably had this great idea about how the future looks and how things will develop well for everybody. But since 1994, we have slowly at first and then more rapidly seeing a decay of the situation of facilities, of services in South Africa, which caused us to worry. In the 1970s and 80s, I mean, there was no fences around houses. Children was playing in the streets at night, and it was just such a carefree society that we used to live in. Nowadays, I don't allow my kids out of the house, even with the fences and the gates closed. I don't allow them out of the house. That is what South Africa has become. But not only South Africa. You know, you said earlier about the situation in the world. Just today, I've seen some news broadcast or pieces of news from France, And it's just interesting to see how the tensions are rising in the rest of the world as well. So we are not in an isolated situation. It's a worldwide crisis that is developing. But, I think that we are way down the line as far as that is concerned. And I think that many South Africans has now reached the so-called line in the sand, the back against the wall situation, the Armageddon situation, where we say, well, no further. And we cannot allow it to go further and deteriorate more.
Yeah, well, they say that when you put a Boer in a very bad place, he's like a cow that's locked up against a fence. It fights back very, very hard.
Scott, we did not ask for this situation in South Africa. In 1994, the majority of the people in South Africa say, yes, let's give them a chance. So the ANC has now more or less governed this country for as long as the apartheid government did. Since the independence of 1961 from Britain, it was about 30 years. We are now about 30 years into the ANC government, and where we have seen a build-up of capacity and progress in the first 30 years. Now the second 30 years, only thing that we have saw is decay and going backwards. And then the increasing demands of getting rid of apartheid economics, colonial economics, blaming Jan van Riebeeck, blaming colonialism on everything that is wrong in South Africa. We have stealthily, but increasingly so since the COVID lockdowns started, we have been pushed aside and being told in very harsh terms that we are not welcome in the South African economy, that the South African economy must be liberated into an African style of economy, and actually that we are not wanted here. But every time there's a big problem, the president calls on everybody must now come together, everybody must join hands, and we must fight this problem as one. But we are only good enough where there's money concerned, where we can give, where we can pay, but nothing else. I mean, the threatening situation with the farmlands, where they want to take the land away without compensation, the threat about the arms laws, they want to take the guns of the people away, and we have reached a point. We have reached a point where they are now forcing us into a situation where we can say no more give. Because for the past 27 years we have been giving. We have been giving, saying sorry, going backwards. And I think we are now fed up with that. Most South Africans, when I'm talking about most South Africa, I'm talking about people, conservative people, that is feeling and looking like I am looking. Okay? I don't know whether that's the right word in English. My English is not too well, Scott, but I'm trying my best.
Your English is great.
But I think we have reached almost a line now where we say no more. And now there's this threat of violence in South Africa, the threat of disarmament. And we know, if we look at all the farm murders and other murders that happened throughout the past year or so, we have reached a point where we must realize that our only survival, hope for survival, lies in defending ourselves. Now, we don't want this, but they are forcing it onto us, because it's my duty as the man in the house to protect my wife and my children and my people. And if that is against the law, then so be it. But there's no other way out. We've got to look after ourselves and protect us.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question, Wynand. I started this live stream by talking about the global situation for very good reason, because South Africa, by the globalists, is just seen as another entity that they can capture and take over. And I noticed with great concern in the last week, the United Nations are now present in KwaZulu-Natal. What the heck are the United Nations doing in South Africa?
Scott, to a certain extent, we must bear in mind that the United Nations always has a presence in almost every country in the world, whether that presence is dominant or not. But there is always a presence of the United Nations. Maybe they become more visible during the past week or two, or maybe somebody focused the attention on them. But I personally don't think that the United Nations is here for peaceful purposes or to intervene in any action or violence that occurs in South Africa. But I am quite realistic about external threats. But just remember that the United Nations will not directly become a threat to any of us in South Africa. They will use proxy forces, like they are so popular to do nowadays throughout the world. Now I can think of a couple of proxy groups that can be used in Southern Africa as such. But yes, I take notice therefore about the fact that the United Nations is in KwaZulu-Natal. They have been seen, but I don't think they are going to play an immediate role now or in the near future. And maybe when they do try to play a role, it will be too late anyway.
Yeah, well, that brings me to the next question, Wynand, and that is that there is clearly a power vacuum happening in Luthuli House. You know, you've got these different factions of the ANC. The ANC are just collapsing internally. And that creates a huge risk for South Africa. If you look at the state of the army, it's a disgrace. If you look at the state of the South African Police Service, it's a disgrace. If you look at 1.5 million rounds of ammunition just disappearing in the looting last month on the docks in Durban, you know, the country is clearly in a state of anarchy. Isn't it time that the adults in the room started doing something about this, taking back the country and saving the country from itself?
Scott, it's a very good question, but a very dangerous question. First of all, yes, it's probably time to look at something like that. But remember that we must be realistic. If anyone moves too quickly, we choose the wrong enemy to fight. If we have to fight for our survival, at least let's do it at our own choice, at the right moment. Once the government has lost control of the country, which can be by means of the Radical Economical Transformation Group, the RED group, their
Ace Magashula group.
effort to... Say again?
The Ace Magashula group.
Yes. And I mean, they've already actually started with a coup process.
Yeah.
I want to take it further back. Go back to the visit of the South African Air Force plane in Harare about a year and a bit ago. It was the Red Group that was on board. The talks, everything they did there was interestingly abroad. So this is a process that has started a long time ago. And we have seen now that in the forces we got different loyalties. Some people are loyal to the Zuma factions, and some of them are loyal to Ramaphosa's group. But a couple of things has gone wrong along the road. You must remember that let's say the Magashule group, they strive on the thing of the revolution must actually still happen, like Malema said. And Che Guevara said that a revolution without blood is no revolution. And we haven't seen that blood in a revolutionary type of situation in South Africa, although all the farm murders probably constitute for that. But we are now sitting with a divided group of people, loyalties in South Africa, supporting the different two factions. Now we can hear certain groups in South Africa coming forward, and the guys, the people that went to see the Thabo Mbeki trust, some businessmen that talk to Ramaphosa, and even those messages that went around that Anton or Johan Rupert actually demanded from Cyril Ramaphosa that Zuma must be arrested. Whether that's true or not is the fact that the people have saw it. So the Red Group will use that in a coming election and say, well, Cyril is a puppet of the white people. The white people talk to him afterwards. They are actually supporting him. So this can be used in a negative way by the Red Group, by Ace Magashule and the Zuma factions. And if we looked at the situation that happened in Natal, it was specific businesses, specific places that was targeted. It was not a random looting process. First, they have stopped all the traffic, then they have targeted different businesses, and somebody at a stage say, well, they are stocking up. They are stocking up their supplies.
Yeah.
But for what? Now we saw suddenly the looting of a container which was supposed to be offloaded in Cape Town. It was blocked. It went to Durban. It was offloaded in custody of the police, and the police has already cleared the container, but they prevented it from leaving the harbor. It was stacked on the third row of containers, and it was the only container that was looted in that yard to get that 1.9 million rounds of ammunition out. So the assembly of the food, the gathering of the food, the looting and the ammunition is already a better indication that something bigger is busy developing in South Africa. And then suddenly the harbors, the systems, the computers of the harbors was hacked and attacked. And suddenly ships couldn't offload, a disruption of the flow of imported stuff and exporting, the total chaos in the harbors. Even some people or some ship lanes stated that they are not going to transport any more stuff to South Africa because the waiting process outside of the harbor before they are being offloaded is too long. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a situation where in one night, a warehouse was held up. And that was a warehouse that is loading foodstuff out to smaller outlets during the night. And 40 armed men, well trained, came into the building. They gathered all the workers together, put them in a corner, took their cell phones, put it in a box with a jammer inside. The next moment, 14 interlinked trucks arrived with 20 forklift drivers. And the forklift driver started loading foodstuff worth 11 million rand in 4 hours.
Wow.
Onto 14 Interleague trucks. They did not touch the sweets like chocolate, chips, or cool drinks, nothing. All dry stuff they took out of that building.
Food that lasts a long time.
Within 4 hours. Organized, well organized.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at these things, the disruption at the harbors, the looting of the shops, the malls, and even the tire place, the ammunition, this warehouse that got looted, you cannot other than seeing a deliberate effort to disrupt and to stock up. And if, just remember, if they can force the population to go hungry, to loot more, there's more chaos. And out of that chaos, a new government emerged. And that's probably what they are aiming at.
Now, before we get to that point, Wynand, I just want to welcome. We got about 2,500 people watching right now. I just want to welcome everybody to the live stream. Thank you for joining us. I'm talking to Colonel Wynand du Toit about the situation in South Africa today. Now, we have live streams here on Loving Life most nights at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time and a wide range of subjects. Please make sure that you subscribed and to our new platform, which is lovinglifetv.com. Now, Wynand, I just want to get back to what we're talking about here. We're talking about basically an insurrection happening against the sitting government. That's basically what we're talking about. Now, if you look at the red faction, as you call it, the Magashula Zuma faction, who seem to be behind what is going on somehow, you've also got Julius Malema in the background. Now, if he forms a coalition with a piece of the ANC, I'm talking about the red faction, what the heck is going to happen in South Africa then? I'm talking about the 2024 elections.
Scott, yeah, there's quite a lot of answers to that one question of yours. Malema is too quiet. So something is happening in the background that we are not aware of. Then I think the red group are using the world situation to their advantage. In other words, as I've said once quite earlier, that the world COVID lockdown situation has become sort of a black swan to the government and to the red group. They want to use the chaos in the situation to move things around, to change it. But the problem is, at this stage, is that, we saw the violence that has erupted and throw the things a little bit through dear Makar. Sorry. When I pause like that, you must know I'm at a loss of English words.
You can always use an Afrikaans word if you need to, Wynand. That's fine. I mean, most of our viewers are from South Africa, so feel free to throw in the odd Afrikaans word.
I will do that, but it might be a very ugly word, sometimes.
Full. I actually have
just recap this question for me, please.
Yeah, we were talking about the dangers of the EFF forming a coalition with the red group of the ANC when it comes to the 2024 election.
Okay.
And could this be part of that lead up to taking over the country?
Yeah. I don't think the elections will happen this year. And maybe not even the next elections. The municipal elections that's supposed to happen in October. As long as they can keep us on a certain level of lockdown and use the COVID as an excuse that voting might be a super spreader, then we are not going to see an election, because if we see an election this year, the ANC is going to get a hiding to a very large extent. Although the hiding will be in the way of people staying away from the vote, not people voting from another party, because that is one of the big problems in South Africa when it comes to voting. If they are unhappy with the ANC, they don't vote. But yeah, if they form a coalition, it's a possibility. But you know, the ANC can also not have their annual Congress because of COVID. Because if they have a Congress now, the annual Congress this year, Ramaphosa won't be president after that. They will vote him out. So that's why they keep these lockdown measures. They will keep it so that we don't have an election, that they don't have a ANC National Congress, you know, that meeting, the Congress annually, to keep him in power as long as he needs to be there. So yes, it is a difficult situation at this stage, and I'm watching carefully, and I have some of the intelligence guys working on this issue, on what are we going to see, because Malema must make a move, and he must make a move soon, but he hasn't made it yet.
Right. Now, look, that brings me to an organization that you're involved in, Wynand, and that's an organization called Suidlanders. And it's one of the biggest organizations that's actually fighting back for the minorities, and it's got plans and stuff like that. What is the primary cause of the Suidlanders, and what are the reasons that people should be looking at being part of Suidlanders when you consider what is going on right now in South Africa?
Scott, the Suidlanders' primary function is to save lives, but also to save our nation, the Boere and the Boerevolk. That's the only concern. Because we are sort of the Armageddon in the end. When all else failed, this is where we are going to end up. And from the beginning, the Suidlanders has been saying that at a stage, we will reach the point where people will have to flee for their lives. Whether that being caused by disarmament or disappropriation of land without compensation, or violence, anarchy, that it will be our final stand, because we don't have a choice. Otherwise we die, and our nation, our folk will be gone. And that's the Suidlanders. That's their concern. For years they've been telling people to prepare, that this situation will eventually arrive on the scene, and that we must be able to protect ourselves against whatever is coming. And as the situation is developing now in South Africa, is exactly how we saw it. In other words, it will start with small rioting, looting, and it will grow into a massive thing right across South Africa. Because the one thing leads to the next. If they block the roads and they don't allow the trucks through, they burn the trucks down, then there's no food in the cities.
Right.
Then the people grow hungry. Then they started looting elsewhere. Then they started going towards the let's call it then the white suburbs, because in Africa there's a perception that the white man always have money, that the white man have food in his house. So every house will become a sort of a spaza shop to those hungry masses that is looting to stay alive.
Yeah.
Now, once that happened, the barricades of smaller parts. You must just remember, now in Natal, it worked very well at places, very, very well. but we now saw the results of the situation in Phoenix, I think. Yeah. But there's a place in Belitu where they have cordoned off the neighborhood to protect the neighborhood from looters. Effectively, they've done it. But you know what? 3 days into it, white people was fighting over bread. Actually, first fighting over bread because there wasn't food. Because all the people living in Belitu, in the evenings they go out to a restaurant. In the mornings they ate at the Wimpy or at Mug and Bean and those places. So nobody got food in their houses. So they went hungry. Very, very quickly they went hungry. So if this thing becomes an extended thing, this violence spread it over the country, growing larger and larger, then the people is not going to be able to sustain themselves within those small areas that they have blocked off and which they have protected, because no water, no electricity, no sewage, no food being delivered. It is then when the people will have to withdraw to a more safe area, which is naturally the least populated part of South Africa, where we then can group, where we can reorganize and organize ourselves into a force, from where we can then move from a firm basis to do whatever it takes to protect our nation.
Right. Now, I guess one of the really important aspects to this, Wynand, and you, I'm sure, be involved in this, is discussions with other groups like, I'm thinking of Commando Corp, Boere Legion, these different groups who have members as well in little towns. And I understand that Saitlanders and these groups are now talking, which I think is fantastic, because I think that is critical, the whole concept of Eendracht maakt macht.
Scott, yes, but let me correct you. We are willing to allow the groups to come together with us. But we are so far ahead in the planning of the situation that we cannot deviate from a well-appreciated military plan. We cannot deviate because we know what we got to do to have our country survive, to let our people survive. So, of course we are talking. Of course we are giving a hand out to the people, but we will all have to come together in the end to serve the survival of our people. Now, we cannot get the people to survive if we are gathering in small groups all over the country. We must join and as one force, coordinated, well coordinated and plan, and then move forward with a strategy in the end to create law and order. We have to do that. Everybody is welcome to come. But I must tell you also, there is a lot of political opportunism. In the process as well.
Yeah.
You will see the heads coming out every once in a while, and the guy will call and say, listen, let's get all the people together. Let's come together and let's talk about this thing. And then suddenly you hear how the thing is being deviated into a political thing. Now, Scott, we are past politics in South Africa. Talk is not going to work. Politics got to take the back seat at this stage.
Yeah, I get it.
We have to do the time to talk and for petitions and letters and that stuff is past. We got, first of all, to look at what must be done. You know, I always say you got two types of people. Those guys that like to have meetings, and they sit in the meetings from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he had a hard day's work.
Yeah.
That wasn't work. That was meetings. Then you got the people who's doing things from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. That's your doers. It's now time for the doers, not for talkers.
You know, an interesting perspective on that, Wynand, is that we've just had the Lions visiting South Africa with the rugby, the Springbok Lions challenge. And if you take a full stadium of people, the analogy is that the doers are the people who are playing the game, and there are only 30 of them, and you've got 20,000 people watching. And that unfortunately is what happens all too often in real life when it comes to what you're talking about.
I agree with you, Scott. Unfortunately, a very small percentage of the people, of the population, of our people, and you know of whom I'm speaking when I'm talking about our people, that is a big thing. You know, people have asked me many times, Wynand, you are now with the Suidlanders. Where is the safest place in South Africa? And I used to tell them, well, I don't know. They said, but how can't you know? I said, because never before was a proper appreciation done. And when I'm talking about a proper appreciation, I'm talking about appreciation of the whole area, of the situation, of the threats, of own abilities, and what courses of actions will be best and is most needed to do a thing. Now, we all know how the process in the military works. We started out as youngsters. When we do national service, you don't do appreciations. You don't do appreciations when you are a platoon commander. And sometimes you will start doing small appreciations on a company level, and then later you will move on to a battalion stage, and there is where the real appreciation work starts. So you talk about people who got at least 10 years experience in the military before they even start talking appreciations.
Right.
Now you look at your battle formation, your battle group courses, a battle team first, then battle group, and then your staff course. And when we started the defense part, the defensive part of the Suidlanders, I did it solely to provide a vehicle for the former military people in which they can feel comfortable and where we can get their knowledge on the table.
Right.
As
now,
well.
That's called Suidland Defense, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, carry on.
And what we did then is I was absolutely stunned, Scott. A year ago I had a handful of guys. Now I'm sitting with more than 2,000 former military guys that have joined hands. I took 15 of the most senior guys who is in my top structure, and they were all people. Some of them studied at the military academy. Some of them have done the staff course, and all of them have done the battle group courses. Now that is the guys in the old days who would have organized and planned operations like Protea, Hooper, Packer, those type of guys. That is the level of the planning of the guys. And I brought them out and I said, guys, we have to do appreciation of the situation in South Africa and how are we going to allow the people to survive. And one of the people asked me about what are the guidelines. I said, well, there's only 3 guidelines. The very first one is in 1975, 250,000 Portuguese people fled Angola. only 250,000. They've filled every town in Namibia, even as far south as Springbok, Uppington, and Olifantshoek in South Africa. Now the guys' estimates are that we will probably be sitting with between 700,000 and 2 million refugees, white refugees, our people fleeing from the cities. How are we going to cater for 1 million refugees? That's the first guideline. So we're looking at a big area. The second guideline is how can we feed 1 million people? In 1965, Dr. Hendrik Verwoerd, had a specialized group of Germans coming to South Africa to advise him on certain things. And one of the key questions he asked them is, what area in South Africa got the best potential growth? And they said, well, the Northern Cape. Because of the Orange River, where you got a very short winter period of time, where you can produce food 360 days a year. But you got to build 5 dams. Then you can actually irrigate the whole of the Karoo from those dams. Now we all know that in 1966, Dr. Verwoerd was murdered and his follow-up, John Vorster, wiped those plans from the table. But it's still a fact that the Orange River can produce. And we say the farmers must continue to produce right through anarchy so that we can feed our people, the refugees from the cities, because they are the basis of our folk. They must survive with us. We got to take care of them. We can't just push them away. But somehow we will have to make a plan to allow agriculture to continue to produce food, and the area must be big enough so that our people can spread out, big enough, large enough for the refugees and our people, and they must live as normal as possible. We know what has happened in Bosnia, where whole cities was cordoned off and where the people couldn't get in food and any type of medical supplies and stuff that they needed. Those whole city formed gangs, and the gangs attacked each other. They killed their neighbor because the neighbor got food and they don't have the food. That's what happened there.
Yeah.
We must prevent that. So from day one, we need to have law and order. But somehow we must plan to have law and order in place. We cannot allow, what's the right word, but a disruption in our level of beschaving, in our level of living. You know, we must keep our standards as in a good as as good as possible. Sorry, sometimes when I talk too fast, then the English is a little bit of a problem. But anyway, so we made those plans, and I said that the third guideline is, let's not look at the threats. Let's look at with what we cannot be without. If we want to save our nation, if we want to save 1 million refugees, 2 million, 3 million refugees, what must we have? So we are focused on establishing that we must have, and then we can later say, but okay, there's a threat, and this is how we are going to neutralize the threat, should the situation arrive. So we spent 21 days on this appreciation. And at the end of that, we came down to a plan where we will absolutely have to act if we want to survive. And we will have to act either like David in Goliath, one stone and what Philistines ran, or Moses 40 years in the desert. So the time for talking about how we must do it is now over. For us, we have done that. We know that there's nothing else that can work, that this plan is the one that will save the nation. And I'm not talking about saving a community. I'm not talking about saving 6 farmers or saving myself. I'm talking about saving the nation, and the Suidlanders is the only organization that is large enough, organized enough to save the nation. But every little group plays a very important role in the now stage. To assist with law and order now, to protect their people now in the areas where they are living, because we still got to live, because there is not yet anarchy. Since I've started broadcasting my videos in the mornings, I've always said, if the government and these instruments, which is the police and the military, can protect us, they got nothing to fear from us. We don't plan to overthrow the government or start a revolution or anything like that. That's not our mandate. But we see more and more that the police cannot do all the work. In Natal now with the riots, it was the civilians, the security companies that provide ammunition to the police to do their work.
That's just crazy.
So it's absolutely crazy. But the fact is, immediately after it, when he started stabilizing out and Becky Cele finally lifted his nose above his bed covers, he started attacking the people that have protected themselves, the security companies who have helped the police. Then that became his target.
Yeah.
And we said, well, if that is the way things are going, then there's no hope for us to ever hope of decent protection by the government.
Well, just for the record,
and if they can't protect,
just for the record,
we got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for the record, Becky Cele's highest academic achievement is a teacher's diploma. How can you expect him to run the police service? Now, there are a couple of things I wanted to pick up on what you were talking about there. And obviously, food security is critical. I mean, that is the basic requirement for living. You've got to have food security. And then you've got Ramaphosa saying to Trump, there are no white farm murders in South Africa. I mean, really, which planet does this guy live on? But the point I wanted to get to is that isn't the example of Arania in the Northern Cape, which is sitting on the Orange River, an example of how communities, minority communities, can set up safe zones during this time of turmoil? Is this when people talk about where is the magic spot where we should go to when things go absolutely, where the shit hits the fan? Isn't it communities where they've actually established an Arania type scenario?
Yes, but personally, I like Orania. I like the atmosphere, I like the people, but Orania got too much internal politics. You know, they say where there's 5 South Africans, they establish 10 churches and 10 political parties, and that's the situation in Orania. And unfortunately so, because they got so much potential. And in my own way, I will keep supporting them as I've always done. I think it's a great place. It's a great idea, but how do they protect their integrity of their land? You know, there's a lot of people who wants to secede the Cape. What is the biggest problem that they are facing? Is the fact that they don't have a force to enforce their decision, to enforce their secession. If you don't have a force, you are hopeless and you can't protect yourself and look after yourself. So if we look at the area, and Orania is in our area, so Orania will automatically be safe and be protected. But we must look much bigger than small communities. We got a nation to survive, not communities to survive.
Right.
We got a nation that must survive. So if I'm talking about the area which the Zuidlanders in the appreciation process, the Zuidlander Defense has identified, we're talking about the area which is extremely large and is loosely from the N1 westward until the sea, down more or less Richmond to Lutzville and Strandfontein, and up from Bloemhof to Botswana. All of that westwards. It's a very large area. And it will be good, and many people do already bring themselves into this area, this large area, of which Orania has already started a long time ago, but they are a community, and they are a successful community. And I took my hat off for them for what they have achieved there. But Orania cannot handle 1 million people, that is fleeing. We must be able to produce food on a very, very large scale. Now we know that the Orange River area is producing enough food to provide it for 60% of the current population in South Africa. We talk then 50 to 60 million people. So in the event or in the case of anarchy, where the people flock to the Northern Cape, we will probably be able to feed anybody or everybody that is coming this way. So I'm pleading with the people in South Africa, let's just think wide, let's think big. But then there's also another problem with South Africans, and that is my own self. And the second thing is what I owe or own. My house, my farm is the best. We have been farming here for generations. I cannot abandon the farm and go to the Northern Cape. I will stand here and defend that farm, and there, I'm sorry to say, he will die.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing left, not the farm, not his life, nothing. It's time that we forget about the own self, that we start forgetting about the value of my property, the society in circles in which I'm moving, and we start thinking nation, nation, nation. Ons volk, our people's survival. I always remind people about the Boer War, the Anglo-Boer War. After the war, the humiliation of the surrender at Vereniging, the Boer went back to their farms, which has been burnt. Nothing was left, just the walls of the houses standing, not one seed to plant, not one hoof of an animal to continue farming with.
Yeah.
And you know what? They have rebuilt. And we are the examples of the result of that same desecrated farmers.
Yeah.
If we cannot accept the fact that we will have to start over in South Africa, then we are doomed. You know, they are talking about a reset, the world economic reset.
Yes.
We must bring that down to South Africa and say, we need a reset. There's only one way to do a reset, and that is to start over. And you must be willing to forget about your own wealth, your own, daai eie ek situasie. and think nation, think all, think start over, start right, and then it will work.
And can I just
But
say,
at least we
Wynand,
must keep politics out of it. Huh?
yeah, can I just say, Wynand, that this is actually an amazing opportunity for a new South Africa to break itself away from the clutches of that new world order that wants to globalize the world, because you'll have a completely different political dispensation, not the Ramaphosas who've been bought by the new world order. You'll have very different people in there who can just say, no, this is our independent land. We want nothing to do with your new world order. I think this is the very, very exciting aspect behind this. I want to get back to something that you said earlier. You're talking about the military side. Now, what's your advice to people right around South Africa? What are the most dangerous parts of South Africa to be living in if things really go pear-shaped? And what are the best parts of South Africa to be living in? So if people are thinking, let's say I'm in Pretoria and I'm thinking, I want to move my family to a safer area. What is your advice to people? Where shouldn't they be when things go really bad, and where should they be?
Scott, you know what, I had quite thorough discussions and presentations made to Agri-Free State and to the Transvaal Landbou Union about the situation and how it can end up, etc. And the most difficult thing was that all of these two very major and important agricultural groupings in South Africa admit that it is a problem and that it is a danger and that this plan makes sense. The biggest problem is still, how do they persuade the farmer in the northern parts of South Africa to leave his farm behind and to flee to a more safe area? That's the most difficult thing for people to realize, to get their mind over, to leave their things. I think that the whole of South Africa, but you can go and look at the demographics of the populations in South Africa, and you will see where all the incidents of the past couple of years has happened. If you take the whole of South Africa and you would pinpoint each incident with a red pen, and you put 5 years of incidents across each other, you will have a red band of incidents right around the country. And there's only one area, and that is actually the Northern Cape and Karoo, where that don't happen. So it will be a natural process of osmosis. High concentrate, overflow to a low concentrate. We have all learned it in school. High density of salt, low density of salt, in other words, fresh water, and you will have the salt going through, spreading into the fresh water, not the other way around. So if you look at that, I don't expect people to leave everything behind now, because you got to make a living until it's over. But you must have a plan in place. You must know how to get out. You must know what you must do. Even if you have to hide away for a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months, and then you can get out. It's still fine. We will maintain the integrity of the area which we have formulated. We will keep that integrity. We will from there move forward to establish law and order in the rest of South Africa as well. But that will take time. But we have to start somewhere. So, yeah, obviously then what I'm saying is that the less populated areas of the Karoo and the Northern Cape will be the safer areas for people to go. And I expect that once violence, and I'm talking of extreme violence, where all else has failed, then people will flee in this direction westward, because it will be the normal thing to do. And hopefully we will be able to protect them as far as possible. But hopefully with enough support, you will be able to rescue those groups that by choice or by accident being isolated in separate parts of the country where we can reach them and secure their safety as well.
Right. Now, obviously, Gauteng is a melting pot. I mean, I think that's going to be a very, very hard area to protect civilians. But I think KwaZulu-Natal is slightly different because you've got the traditional Zulu who, you know, I think are very, they feel very comfortable with the minority groups in that area. So there is a possibility with and I know people like Dr. Peter Munns, who deals directly with the royal family or the Zulu royal family. And, you know, they are fully aware of what's going on. I think the white population in KZN could, in effect, actually form an alliance with those groups and be protected from the Red Faction, as you call it, in South Africa. So I think that, yeah, Western Cape, I think, is a no-brainer, but possibly KZN and that those lands owned by the trust, the Ngiyemi Trust, I think it's called. What are your thoughts about KZN?
The success that the guys have experienced over the past 3 weeks is not the norm. I don't think you can trust the Inkonyama Trust. I don't think you can trust any of that. What you must realize, that the forces behind this is not black or white. The forces behind the conflict in South Africa and the violence is probably orchestrated by the people that of which you have talked when we started tonight.
Right.
But they misuse the situation. They misuse the racial tensions that exist in South Africa for their own purposes. So the frontline clashes will start between different black factions. But it will wash over and it will become a black on white and a white on black situation. There's no way how we will be able to maintain a stable relationship of any sorts in KwaZulu-Natal on the long run. I also want to remind you, but I actually don't want to talk about it, but that is the relationship of the Islamic groups, the radical Islamic groups that we are currently experiencing in the northern parts of Mozambique, the foothold they got in KwaZulu-Natal, their ties with the royal household. And that's something that is very dangerous. That's something that we don't want to talk about now as yet, but that is something that we have considered and we are looking into and trying to keep up to date on. But there is another faction there. Apart from our problem of being attacked by black people attacked by white people, is there another faction?
Yeah.
And that's the Islamic faction.
Yeah.
And we don't know what they are planning. I'm not going to give you numbers or discussions. I think it is too dangerous to do that.
Sure.
At this stage.
I understand that they're actually training on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal, these Islamic factions. Now, I just want to move on, Wynand, to you've recently published a video on battle indications, which is clearly what we're talking about here. Now, I just want to tell people that Wynand has said, please, for him to have his channel up on our lovinglifetv.com contributing channels. So what will happen there is, as Wynand puts up a new video on YouTube, we will actually, in our daily broadcast email, be under contributing channels, alerting you to the fact that Wynand has put out a new video, and it'll have the title. It'll say Wynand du Toit. So, you know, if you register on lovinglifetv.com and you get your daily email, when Wynand puts up a video on YouTube, it will also go up on lovinglifetv.com, and you'll be alerted to Wynand's video that's going up. So just be aware of that. That this is another reason you should get and register on lovinglifetv.com. Now, okay, let's get back to your video, Battle Indications. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, you know, when you look at the situation, and let's go back to our in-depth backgrounds in the old days of the border war.
Yeah.
That if certain things starts happening, if you picked up certain things, then it starts indicated on the fact that something is going to happen. That is a battle indication to say, listen, we can expect an attack by the enemy, or we can expect this or this action or reaction from the enemy. If we look at South Africa currently, we can also see battle indications. That battle indications being the ammunition, being the violence, the robbing of that, the looting of the warehouses, which I talked about. And we have had all sorts of reports coming in that they are now in the phase where they are gathering weapons at all costs. Just this morning, reports started coming out about incidents that happened in the Free State over this past weekend, where people was actually pulled off at police roadblocks, their firearms confiscated, whether they have a license or not.
Wow.
Now, this has been confirmed, but nobody can give us a clear answer on to say that it was a lawful roadblock, whether they confiscated the weapons and they gave a receipt for the weapons, or whether this is actually part of this process of getting weapons into their hands. Now, this is kind of battle indications that's telling us, if we listen what they are saying, you know, this expropriation of land without compensation, the question of disarming the population, declaring certain things illegal, the misuse of the law, the misinterpretation of the law, that's all battle indications that we are heading for the afgrond, the cliff, that sooner or later, and I think it will be sooner, we are going to be over the cliff. So we must look at everything, all the different scenarios and things that is happening. And those little things that is happening must be telling us a story. So what we have done, I got a small group of former intelligence people that is working on all this WhatsApp messages and stuff that is coming in, that is fleeing around, and they go through that. They verified what is true, and throw out that is recirculated videos from 5 years ago, or whether it's false information, they separate that. So in the end, I receive from this group a defined intelligence report on what is happening and what everything is indicated. And I will never talk about anything if I haven't received confirmation that it did happen or is in the process of happening but has been confirmed. So this is all battle indications which we cannot ignore. We must base our assumption of the situation on what we know for fact. People want to know how much time do we have left. I don't know how much time we do have left. But what I know is that, according to the battle indications, we are much, much closer to anarchy than we were 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And that we are miles closer to the final moment than we were a year later. It is as if the whole process accelerates. But if you want to know whether it's accelerating or not, you must have confirmed information or intelligence. Information is unconfirmed, intelligence is confirmed.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I just want to say we got about close to 3,000 people
You
watching.
still there, Scott?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Wynand, yeah. I just want to say to the close to 3,000 people who are watching right now that please, if you've got questions, put them in the side chat with Loving Life before. I've got a bunch of questions here I'll be putting to Wynand very shortly from people who've put them into the side chat. So please do that. And don't forget to subscribe to Loving Life on YouTube and register on lovinglifetv.com. the platform we are transitioning to, where we cannot be censored by YouTube. Okay, now we touched on this earlier, Wynand, but I think it's a very, very important issue at this point in time, and that is the division between conservative groups. The importance that they join hands in the execution of a combined plan to rescue South Africans. Now, if you would like to give me groups that you would like to make communication with. I think I've had most of the conservative groups actually on my live streams, and I know the people who organize and run them personally. I'm happy to put the word out there and see if we can get them to the table, because I think we've run out of time talking, as you said. It's time for action. It's time for everybody who's got an interest in this area, including private security groups, to start being part of the solution and not just ignoring the problem. What are your thoughts about this division between the conservative groups and how it can be resolved?
Scott, like I've said previously, they are all welcome. They are welcome to come to me here at our headquarters and speak to me. But then all games must be left behind at home. If a guy comes to talk to me or to any other of the Zuidlander leader group, they are welcome. But then they must remember and they must bear in mind that this plan that we have done by a formal appreciation is not bendable. We might be buigsaam. Yeah, bendable is not the right word. There's a nice English word for it.
Flexible.
We must be able to adapt and that type of stuff. But we cannot deviate from the course of action.
But Wynand,
I've always said people that want to come in from the side are welcome. They can come in their own groupings under their own command, but we will have to coordinate the actions that is being taken, so that there is no loose cannons on the run, so that there is no craziness that is going around, and that we talk from one mouth. We're sitting with a very difficult situation in the sense that we don't want people to get into trouble at this stage. We cannot afford to lose leaders in the process being imprisoned. But I cannot speak for what some of the groups are doing. But if once I start talking to them, I'm associated to them. And if they break the law, then I'm also guilty. So it's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we say, well, let's talk. But come to me, let's talk in private. And don't publicize it all over. And I think that is happening to a very large extent. We are talking, but we cannot make everything public. Because our listeners tonight is not the only people that is listening. There is also people listening that we don't want to don't want them to know what we will do in the end. And at this stage, I think it is a good time to throw in the following. You know, I discussed this plan at a stage with a young military officer who recently left the Defence Force. And he said to me, and he's English speaking, and he said to me, "Sir, it is wrong to break the law, but it is morally wrong to do nothing. It is wrong to break the law, but it is morally wrong to do nothing."
Yeah.
And we want to be morally right. We want to do something about it without breaking the law, without being tied to anything that might lead to imprisonment or anything like that. We can't afford anything like that at this stage. And we don't want it. Of course not. And that's why we keep on saying to the government, protect us. Protect our farmers, protect our people. But if you are bringing violence onto us by means of the masses, hungry masses, we got no other option but to defend ourselves, which we will do. And I think that's how all the different groups are feeling at this stage.
Yes.
But you can take my word for it that all of us has spoken to each other over time. Some of us are now speaking, some of us is in touch with each other, and there is a consensus that we will have to work together, and we don't deny that, because each and every group in South Africa got a role to play. I've many times in the mornings, I said to people, prepare yourselves. Join a group. Not necessarily the Suidlanders. Join any group, but at least make a plan. Be part of a group. Have a plan.
Now, that's a very interesting point you've raised, because I always say to people that you're mad if you're not part of a neighborhood watch group or a policing group or something like that, because when the shit hits the fan, you're on your own. But if you're in part of a group, at least you've got support.
That is true. And people must join a group. You know, a bad plan is better than no plan.
Exactly.
Because even a bad plan means you have thought about it. You have spent some time thinking about it. And from there on, we can move forward. So yeah, we will continue talking to other groups. But as I said earlier, I mentioned it, there is certain people that wants to make a political thing out of it. And we cannot afford politics in this situation.
Right.
We cannot have politicians trying to play politics, while our function and purpose should be to survive, to stay alive, to look after our people. Stop politics. One day, when everything is finished, we will decide if we want politicians or not.
Right.
I don't know whether it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what is your take on the future of South Africa? And I just want to tell people watching right now that we're getting to the end of the questions that I'm going to be putting to Wynand, and then I'm going to be putting your questions to Wynand, the ones that you put in the side chat. So We'll just finish off the line of discussion that we're in right now and then get on to these individual questions. Now, Wynand, what's your take on the future of South Africa? What are the options that South Africa's got?
There's only one solution. If they want to save South Africa, they got to immediately do away with BEE. Appoint the best people in the best places. Take all the trade restrictions and stuff away.
Yeah.
Allow the white people to use their initiatives. Maybe then, and only then, we might be able to save it. But I can tell you that will be a difficult one. Because senior people in the banking industry has joined our organization because they say there's no turning around or saving the economy. Some senior people in the police have joined because they say we cannot control the people.
Yeah.
So we will probably see a gradual, gradual is the wrong word because we are long past a gradual, but we will see a continuation of the deteriorating of the country. We will probably show that internal politics in the ANC will cause violence to erupt all over South Africa. And we will have to protect ourselves. And our future now lies in the hands of God. But we must remember that we are the instruments of God. So even if we pray and we believe, no matter how much we pray, if we pray a lot, we will have to do a lot. The English got a beautiful saying, God help those who help themselves.
Yeah.
But personally, I see no future for South Africa unless it's a complete reset. And that will have to be total anarchy. That will have to include protection of ourselves, to re-establish law and order, to have a firm and a strong hand, to make decisive decisions, and not to blunder about things. But Scott, the future of South Africa, if we survive, it will be beautiful. But we cannot get away from this that is coming our way. We will have to go through it. We will have to go through it and to reset. And then there will be a beautiful future for all of us and for our children. We are old soldiers, but we will have to do it. And we will have to teach the youngsters how to continue the tradition of the Boer, how to continue to be proud and to be strong. We have lost our pride along the line, our pride in who we are and what we are. We must regain that proudness of being a strong people, of people that can and will rebuild and can rebuild. But first, we must survive. And we will. We will.
Now, Wynand, you say survive, regroup, reorganize, and then attack from a firm basis. Why?
Eendracht maakt macht. That's what you said earlier.
Exactly.
Our survival lies in numbers. If we can't support each other, if we can't do it coordinated, we are doomed. We got to do it.
Now, I just want to let you know that I've just put in the link for people who want to join Saitlanders in the side chat, and I'll do it again now. Obviously, if people aren't involved in a group, then they're mad if they're in South Africa, because you never know what's going to come knocking at your door, and then what are you going to do? Okay, now I'm going to start putting questions to you, Wynand, that have come from people in the side chat. Francie Beitendacht has asked, what's your predictions on Zuma? What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I'm saying something about Zuma tomorrow morning. But he's following the trends of Sabir Sheikh at the moment. I've just learned today that his doctor said that he is extremely ill. He's in danger to die if he continues with the trial because of some injury he received during 2020. Now, I don't know what injury he received. Maybe it was a bit of COVID. I don't know. But I think eventually nothing is going to happen to Zuma, because they are so afraid now that if they do anything to Zuma, that another wave of violence will erupt. So they will touch him with handkerchiefs.
Right. Okay.
He will probably be paroled.
Viking Boer has asked, ask Wynand to explain the difference between Saitlanders and Zaitlanders. Zaitlanders is that group who've got a Rania type setup just north of Cape Town. Do you want to just expand?
Now, Scott, I don't know a lot about the Zaitlanders with a Z.
Yeah.
All I know, they got a farm near Aurora where they are staying, and they are selling pieces of land to people where they then can settle, and then they plan to probably to protect themselves. And that's all I actually know about them. I don't know a lot of them. But yeah, and the Saitlanders is what we have been talking about the whole evening, was actually standing that we got a national emergency initiative. It used to be an emergency initiative, but it is now a national, because we are nationwide for everybody that needs the Armageddon protection in the end. The Saitlanders don't own property. We don't sell property. We are not, or let me put it this way, many times in the past there was stories about Saitlanders selling land, farms which they have bought. We don't have property, we don't have farms, we don't sell land to anybody. That's probably the Zaitlanders who is doing that.
Right. Well, you're a community rescue organization, basically giving people a plan B when things go really bad. Now, Andre has asked, what will be the estimated time left before the country, I think he's talking South Africa, becomes like Venezuela? And he says, I'm guessing 2 years. What are your thoughts on that, Wynand?
I'm not going to make that, or I'm not going to share that view. I don't think 2 years. 2 years is too long. But I don't think we are going to reach a stage of Venezuela, because we are not going to allow ourselves to be disarmed. Right. The moment they bring in the disarmament law and people have to disarm, we will probably enact the Armageddon program. In other words, a full-scale Saitland withdrawal, reorganizing, and then we will just have to do it as we have planned it. Right. We don't have a choice.
No, look, I totally get what you're saying. Willie Locke says, are the Chinese involved in all of this, the trouble that's going on in South Africa?
Chinese is an interesting lot of people, but we must bear in mind that China has never been involved in any conflict around the world since the Second World War. And at that stage, they were only involved in a war of Japanese occupation. The Chinese will not get directly involved in Africa or in South Africa. They will at the most use a proxy force. And that proxy force can be Zimbabwe. That proxy force can be a group of well-trained people that they kept hiding somewhere in a neighboring country or in South Africa. Sometimes hiding in plain sight is the best. But the Chinese directly will not get involved, because then the Americans will get involved, and that's why the Americans got a base in Botswana for all these years. And they've got several bases all over the world. And the Chinese know that. The Chinese, I don't see the Chinese as a direct threat to us. They will use somebody, but not the Chinese themselves.
Right. Now, Linda van der Merwe says, Wynand, where will we be fleeing to? Now, I think you've mentioned the Northern Cape is probably one of the safest areas, haven't you?
Yeah, but that's quite true. But you know, the word fleeing is meant in a derogative way. You know, they will always say, ja, but julle Suidlanders vlug mos. I see it rather than a tactical withdrawal to enable us to regroup, reorganize, and to move from a firm basis. But yes, that withdrawal is in the area which I've indicated, which is very, very large. That's where we will assemble the Suidlander civilian leg to accommodate the refugees from the cities. Those guys that are indeed then refugees who is fleeing, but the Suidlanders themselves will then have to handle them, while the defense leg of the Suidlanders' main purpose will be protect the integrity of the area which we are occupying.
Right. Now, Tommy Jenkinson has asked, my question to Colonel du Toit is as follows. If anything should happen to you, will the person that will be standing in your shoes be able to do what you are able to do?
Well, he's probably better qualified than I am. I think I'm, at this stage, the instrument that he was in the right place at the right time who is doing this work. But if something happens to me, we have made, there is a, what is the right word? Not like
a backup.
There is a backup in place, but not, there is a backup in place, and people have been identified to continue the work, and they will be able to do so. My World Command group are very well qualified, most of them better qualified than I am, and I'm hugely dependent on their advice and their guidance and their wisdom, because alone I can't do it. But with them, it's possible. And through the mercy of God, I will continue for as long as I can. But if something happened to me, people don't have to fear. It will continue as it is doing now.
Right. Now, I've got a question here from someone who wants to join Suidlanders, and it's Linda van der Merwe, who says, do you have a group near Kroonstad that we can join? Now, I'll just put in Suidlanders link so you can actually join there, or just go to suidlanders.co.za and find out more information about the organization. Wynand, do you have a group or members near Kroonstad?
Yeah, but now let's look at it in two ways, Scott. It's a very good question. The Suidlanders now exists out of two groups, actually, Zuidland Defense and the Zuidlanders civilians. The civilians have groups with leaders in all the different towns and districts. The Zuidland Defense is not organized like that. The defense is organized in the structures as we have known it during the era of the Bush War or the Border War. So you don't have a representative in a town or in an area as such. The Zuidlander Defense only got a convoy leader that must bring you out to the main assembly area. From there you are going to the specific areas, battalions in which you have been incorporated into, and you are under the command of a officer commanding. The civilians don't work like that. Every town got a group. But Scott, we have just opened up a call center, a Zuidlander National Call Center here in Uppington. We have moved our headquarters to here, and all the main functions of the Zuidlanders is moving to Uppington. And in the future, as from this coming Thursday, people will be able to call in with questions such as that one. Okay, who can I contact in Kroonstad, or in Viljoenskroon, or in Kammieskroon, or in Springbok? Who can I contact? And those ladies will be able to give you a name and a number of the local person that you can contact and slot into it. The Zuidlanders has grown so large now, and many people is joining the organization keeps on asking the question of me, nobody has contacted me, nobody has phoned me. It's too large. So if you join, you phone your leader in your town and you join up. In other words, the question of what is the Zuidlanders doing for you is not applicable. What is you going to do for the Zuidlanders effort? So when you join, you are responsible to contact your local person. So the question was quite right. Is there a group in Kroonstad? Yes. There is a very large group in Kroonstad, and they got a leader there, which name now you will find on the website. But as from Thursday morning this week, you will be able to call the call center and get the information that you need.
So they can just go to the website to get the call center number. Now,
yeah,
go ahead.
With the call center now, but it won't be with immediate effect. We are also starting a radio station that can broadcast.
Oh, fantastic.
And the purpose of that is, so once anarchy breaks out and the electricity networks collapse and there's no communications, people can still listen on their car radio to our radio station, through which we will advise them and give them advice on what to do, where to move, where not to go, and where they can go. And we will be broadcasting on AM so that we can reach the whole country from here. Fantastic. And I will make that frequencies known to the people as soon as we have received the necessary permissions to do that. Another thing is, of course, during that time we will have very large numbers of aircraft in the air that will fly over. All the Zuidlander members' cars are marked on top, so that the aircraft can identify them and lead them past potential hotspots, try to assist where they can. So that type of planning is well in place at this stage. So the radio will play a prominent role, and we hope to give as much assistance to people in need that we can do within our possibilities.
Can I make a suggestion, Wynand? It's just come to me now. I actually took delivery of a drone just today, a drone, which you can fly, and it flies up to about 4 or 5 kilometers from you. Don't you think it'd be good, because of the size of your organization, to have a group within it who fly drones? Because then people with drones can actually fly over and see what's happening in an area where they're worried about the situation. What are your thoughts on that?
No, of course it's a good one, but I can assure you we already got a lot of drones, and we got a large contingent of people that is flying drones.
Fantastic.
Our air wing is quite strong. We have huge numbers of fixed wing aircraft, lots of helicopters that is available to fly, and I even have extra pilots. So, so yes, drones is playing a very, very important role, and I agree with you on that. And we are not exploring it; we are already employing it.
Fantastic.
So yes, it is there.
Now, Audrey Golden has asked, what does the Colonel think about the handling of our guns? I think he's talking about these new laws that they want to bring out where defense is no longer a reason to have a license.
Yeah, you know, one of our very prominent conservative advocates, Albert Murphy, wrote a comprehensive piece on that. And I think people should try to get hold of that piece and read through it. And the fact is that the protection of your life is a human right. And by taking that away, you also take away the right to live. And nobody can take away your right to live. But of course, academic paperwork like that of Advocate Murphy is a bit above me. And I must say that the only thing that I know is that we can stall the process for as long as possible to try and to block this new law that you cannot buy a firearm, and the reason being then to protect yourself. But it's just one step in the way that they have planned to go, and they've planned that's many, many years ago. I don't think we are going to stop them in the long run to do that. And that's probably, if anarchy don't break out before the time, it will probably lead to our withdrawal anyway, and to start the plan that we have been talking about tonight. We can only delay the process, but slowly but surely they are making progress, eating away on our liberties and our rights to have firearms, our rights to protect ourselves. And on the other hand, it's ridiculous. I mean, the police in some places in Natal was protected by security companies.
Crazy.
The other day I've heard Becky Sally said that the police station needs protection. Shit, who must protect them? They are the police.
Yeah.
They must protect us.
Why have a police station?
And they can't protect us. Now they want to take our firearms away and our means of protecting ourselves. It's all ridiculous, but the fact is, if that is what they want to do and they have the power in their hands, that is what they are going to do.
Well, I do have to say, Wynand, that logic is not Bekkesel's strong suite. You know, the logic factor is missing in action there. But let's continue with the questions. Yeah. Francie Beitendracht has said, Wynand, what is your view on, and I'm afraid this is a political question, what is your view on Neil de Beer? And I see that UIM has just been accepted as a political party by the IEC in South Africa.
I have prayed this afternoon that nobody asked me any question about that. I know Neil de Beer for quite a long period of time, and I don't want to say anything wrong about Neil. And he is just trying, like many of us is trying. But to me, it's too late for politics. We cannot change the course of things by means of politics. But if Neil feels he can block them, stop them, delay them, throw a spanner in their works, then let him do it. Each and every little bit of effort is important in South Africa today. So that's what I will say about Neil. Nothing more than that. At least he is also trying. And as long as all of us is willing to try and don't hide our heads in the sand, then there is hope.
Right. As you say, you've got the doers and you've got the talkers, and at least Neil de Beer is doing something. And, that's a step in the right direction.
We must remember, Scott, the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
Mm.
Think about it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Michelle Meyer says, what is Wynand's stance on Ramaphosa being a New World Order stooge? And what are his views on the New World Order? And that's obviously your views, Wynand.
Yeah, sure. She's throwing me with questions that...
curveballs.
We should call for another 3 or 4 sessions, my stand on that. But I want to answer her in the way that I'm focused on the now and the present and the immediate. I've many times in my life faces problems, and I always said, well, let's handle this problem, and then we will see what comes next. I don't try at this stage to handle a problem which is third in line or fourth in line from where we are now. I'll either take the one problem now, sort it out, try to sort it out, resolve it, move on to the next problem. So I'm aware of the New World Order, and if you start going into this talk, you got to go to the COVID virus, the vaccines, everything that goes with it, the Illuminati. You will have to go in all of that, and that is huge.
You know what I suggest, Wynand? You know what I suggest? I suggest we have another live stream in the next few weeks where we'll talk specifically about that. What about that? So we just carry on with our focus.
I think that will be better, yes, Scott. I think we have concentrated tonight about certain problems in South Africa and possible solutions. And I know that before we will have to handle the New World Order, we will have to handle this problem first.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we'll get that set up for another evening. Now, Fiona Timms has asked, what is the Colonel's take on ISIS in northern Mozambique? Now, we have touched on this, but is there anything you want to add to what you said?
I have been warned to stay away from the ISIS issues at this stage, because I'm also at this stage a sort of a target, not necessarily by them, but definitely by certain people. But what I would like to tell you is that we must be very aware of their presence in KwaZulu-Natal. They got trained members in Natal and in Gauteng. We have saw some of their movements earlier when where they have hijacked people, where they've asked protection money of people, etc., etc. So they are active. Very limited at this moment. Their presence and their aims are well known to the South African intelligence services. The only problem is what to do about it. Now, I don't want to go into that, but there are regular travels between the ISIS groups in the northern part of Mozambique and the sympathizers in Natal. But what I can tell you about the guys in Palma is the fact that the way how they have done things should be a lesson to us. The way how they have chased away, how 100 of them have chased away 3,500 Mozambican soldiers. By the way how they have done it, by their aggressiveness, by how they've executed this operation there should be a lesson for all of us. The day when anarchy breaks out, we got to operate decisively. If we hesitate, we will be lost. If we will hesitate, we will lose. And that is the biggest lesson out of Palma for us all at this stage. But I don't think, let's rather not talk ISIS.
Okay, well, I think the big thing with Palma was all the starving locals who were easy targets, weren't they, for the recruiting. Now, let's move on. Tokolosh has said, please ask your guest how we can begin peacefully resisting right now.
I need a smoke.
Go ahead.
Peacefully resisting. Yeah. Support the petitions. Support those people that speaks out against the inaptitude of the police and those type of things. That's how you can peacefully resist. But also to start refusing, to start giving away, to start being the victim. Move away from being a victim and be proud on who you are. But be careful at this stage. In the future, the time will come where we can do it more openly. But at this stage, I'm not a good peaceful resistor. I hope I answered the question.
Yep, you did. Now, I've got two more questions to go from the side chat, so we're coming to the closing part of the live stream. Benjamin Liebenberg has asked, can a predominantly English-speaking citizen be part of the Suidlanders?
Of course he can. Here I am a predominantly Afrikaans-speaking person addressing the world in English tonight. And if I can do that, of course they are welcome. More than 50%, no, that's too much. Say 30% of the defense leg of the Suidlanders are in fact English speaking. So whether you speak English, Portuguese, French, Russian, Afrikaans, you are welcome.
Right.
As long as you got the same values than we do, there's not a problem. You are more than welcome.
I'll just drop the Suidlanders link to join in the side chat again for people who want to join. Benjamin Liebenberg has asked, hang on, we've done that one. One final question.
Yeah.
Jackie Myers says, the land which Suidlanders has in mind, does it belong to anyone? Can it just be occupied?
We don't want to occupy anybody's land. That's why we are talking to everybody. Of course, it's occupied by people, but the Ceyloners is not planning to occupy people's land. And that's exactly what I said in the beginning. We must have an organized way of living. We must live as normal as possible. Occupying people's land is not normal. So you must understand that there is towns where people can stay. There is facilities that is being made available to people where they can stay. And once we have got everything under control again, we got the reinstatement of law and order, people can move back to where they can find their own peace. We don't plan on occupying land. We don't plan to invade land or anything like that, but rather work with the inhabitants of the area. I want to say tonight categorically to the people inside this more safe area that you must continue with your business, with your farming, without being interrupted by any of what is happening in South Africa, because what you produce and what you are doing will save lives. We will work together in the world process. And that's why I'm talking to business chambers, I'm talking to community leaders, I'm talking to agricultural organizations, I'm talking to everybody to tell them that, listen, there is 1 million refugees coming into this area. We must handle them, we must look after them, we must feed them so that they maintain their humanity, their dignity, that's the right word, their dignity, so that we don't treat them and misuse them for being a refugee because he's part of our own people. You know, always where there's refugees, you got uitbuiting, the misuse of the vulnerable. I won't allow that. I won't allow a person to misuse anybody in the coming days of trouble. We are here to survive. We support each other. And we are not invading land. We are working together with the owners of the land. I had a meeting today with a group of farmers here in the Northern Cape. I have been in meetings with many of them. They understand the need of the people, what the challenges will be, and what will be expected of us to overcome those challenges.
Wynand, thank you.
Did that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Look, it's so good to know that there are organizations like Saitlanders who do have the good of the public in mind, and that they're actually actively planning and preparing and ensuring the safety of their people. And I think that's an incredibly important role that you guys are playing. And as the spokesperson for the Saitlanders defense area, it's been fantastic having you on. We've had up to 3,000 people watching. We've got about 2,500 people watching right now across the 2 different platforms. And I would just encourage people who are listening now to subscribe to Loving Life on YouTube, but more importantly to register on lovinglifetv.com, because we are based in Australia, or I'm based in Australia, which means I can continue to report on what is happening in South Africa when people who are local to South Africa cannot, because of obviously concerns about their welfare. And I will continue to do that. So please make sure that you register on lovinglifetv.com. That's the platform we're transitioning to. We've got forums on there. We've got a whole range of things, including contributing channels, which will include Wynand's YouTube channel as well. And of course, all his updates will be referred to in the daily email I send out to everyone who's registered on that channel. I see we got 70 guests right now on lovinglifetv.com. Guys, there's a register button just below this video. Click on that, register. It takes 2 minutes, and then you will be alerted to what's going on, because we have live streams like this every night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. Now, Wynand, just in wrapping up, is there a message you would like to give to people about the future, South Africa, how Suidlanders is going to basically play a very active role in ensuring their safety? Over to you.
Scott, yeah, my call on all the people is now, it's time to embrace, not the time to divert the people. It's a time to take hands. It's a time to join and stand together. We got more things in common than differences. If we concentrate on the things and the ideals that we have in common and forget about the small things that is dividing us, we will be successful. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much, Wynand. And I just want to thank everybody who's joined us tonight. We will have Wynand back in a few weeks' time to talk about that very controversial subject, the New World Order, and the current situation with lockdowns and stuff like that. So I'll probably have to use a different platform to YouTube, because, you know, the snowflakes will be out and about and be taking it down within 5 minutes flat. So if you're not registered on lovinglifetv.com, you won't know about that particular live stream, because it won't be on the main Loving Life YouTube channel. Because if it was, it would get a community strike, which we cannot afford. So, guys, there's a reason you need to be on lovinglifetv.com. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap up this live stream now. Thanks to the moderators for looking after the side chat. I saw we had a few trolls coming through, which is par for the course. But my moderators, my gosh, they are so on the money. They really know their jobs. Keep it up, guys. Alrighty, so I'm going to wrap up now. Once again, Wynand, thank you so much. And don't forget, we have live streams like this every night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, or most nights, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. So please come and join us, be part of the Loving Life community. It's a huge community. We've got well over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and a huge registered base on lovinglifetv.com. Thanks, Wynand. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Scott, and all the listeners. Stay well, and we'll talk soon.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up this live stream now. I will leave the side chat open for a couple of minutes so you can chat to each other, and look forward to seeing you all 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Johannesburg time. Bye for now.
Meer as 61,000 van ons voorvaders het op die grens vir ons gesterwe, sodat ons vry kan wees. Die is my land, die is my reg, hier is ek boer. Van stof is ek gemaak en sal ek terugkeer. Die Bybel is die woord waaruit ek leer, soos die grond op die aarde. Hier bly ek boer. So diep in die nag sal die vyand kom, maar hier bly ek staan en ek draai nie om, want jy maak my nie bang nie. Hier bly ek boer. Die is my land, waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek somer wat vreugde bring. My oupa wat maniekiero kon sing, soos hy stap deur die lande. Hier was hy boer. My wortels lê diep in die grond geplant. My seun soos my pa, los ek vir jou die land, en jy hoef nie te vrees nie. Hier sal jy boer. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my zweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoe wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voer. Hier bly ek boer. Die leeu sal kom, 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 die leeu sal kom. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. En die is my bloed, my zweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voer. Die is my land, waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my zweet, my reg. Hier bly ek boer.
Sorry guys, that was I turned my camera on, but that was a special request by Viking Boer Marius, who does our daily bread every day on our forums on lovinglifetv.com. So please guys, join lovinglifetv.com and yeah, go to the forums and fantastic daily breads that he puts out every day. And take care guys, I'm going to sign out now. Bye for now.